get it.
SDP, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Hey, happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to our friends down in the States. If there was ever a year to really stop and appreciate MLK and like everything he did for society, this would be the year.
Is it a day off?
I don't think so. I don't know. That's a good question. Hopefully,
I don't know.
Somebody of our American friends can tell us that. You know?
Yeah. It's it's very. I'm always confused as to. So, is it his birthday? Is that why this is Martin Luther King Jr. Day?
You know what, Steve? I'm gonna look it up.
Wow. So you just decided I'm going to start the show with something I don't know anything about.
No, it's an American holiday.
You're right.
We don't have
but is it a real holiday? To me, it's not a holiday if you don't get the day off. Do I get time and a half or the day off?
I think it's a real holiday. Or at least it's a day of celebration.
But that's different from a holiday.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. So MLK Day is a federal holiday in the United States, marking the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr.
There it is.
It is observed on the third Monday of January each year. King's birthday is January 15th. So because it's a holiday, it's set up like a holiday where it's everybody gets off this Monday, so then you get the long weekend. But his actual birthday is the 15th.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Very good. Thanks.
I learned something today as a Canadian who likes MLK.
Absolutely. So Adam's not here today.
Yes. Anybody who's on Twitter would know that Adam's out. He's out sick with the diarrheas. He got a stomach bug, and I don't think he can like be away from a toilet for 2 hours to do a podcast. So he can't join us. He might not be available for Wednesday. I don't know. If the runs let up, maybe.
I spoke to him just before we started. He wasn't sure.
Yeah. It's too early.
Isn't it Thursday?
Thursday, yes.
New schedule.
I have to get used to it. Yeah. So, Steve, we need to start with something special.
What's that?
One of our favorite segments of all time.
What's that?
Frosted Flakes.
Ooh. Like we just eat Frosted Flakes or? Yeah,
we just eat bowls of Frosted Flakes. And while we do that,
loudly,
you tell us who had the Selly of the week.
The Selly of the week. You know what? Jumbo Joe, first is a Leaf. That's a very good one. Any Leaf Selly is obviously a very good one. But just because of the ridiculousness of this goal and the fact it was his first career NHL goal, as a biased Laughs fan, have to give the Selly of the week to Tim Stützle. Tim Stützle, the Ottawa Senators, that ridiculous goal. That ridiculous goal that you can't convince me he meant to score. Like, he meant to put it on net, but it was a hope and a prayer. Puck way in the air, bounces just a little bit off the ice, thwacks it past Jack Campbell, and Jack Campbell, he said he should have had it, and he just wanted to shake his hand.
Do you know Zach Bell? He's at Always Hockey on Instagram. He's like, he does like hockey trick shots on Instagram, and he's like he's relatively like, his channel has a lot of fans, and he does these one-timer puck shots all the time, and people are always like, oh, that would never work in a game, like when would you ever use that, your skills are meaningless. And then you see something like Tim Stützle and you're like, there's a reason these professional athletes practice these things. Sometimes they're gonna come up.
Oh, like when I tell you this, I'm going to try not to sound old, but when I tell you people have no idea what's coming in hockey, they have no idea, because you get a guy like Sasha Barkov on the Panthers who likes Pavel Barber, and they have hung out, right? And they have, done little videos together. There's such a difference between liking Pavel Barber and being raised on him. And the next generation of hockey fans were raised on Pavel Barber. They were raised on Zach Bell. Like you're going to see stuff, the Svetch or the Michigan goal, whatever you call it, that's tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason that you can't do things in real life that you can do in video games. So any of the ridiculous goals you've seen, remember when Rob Schremp went viral for like 10 years because of a shootout attempt he did like in the minors somewhere? Like, everyone's going to be able to do that, and they're going to be able to pull it off in a game. You're not going to recognize hockey in 10 years because it's going to be, there's someone who's going to be drafted in 10 years is 8 right now. Like, I need you to understand that. You're going to have a whole generation raised on Barber and Zach Bell and whoever comes after them, and it's going to be awesome.
And if you spent time enough on hockey Instagram, you've seen 8-year-olds pull off these moves. Like, they're at a very simple level, but they're doing it on the ice, and it's insane. And like you said, we're 10 years away from the game being completely changed at like the professional level, not just like recreationally or in rep leagues. Like at the NHL level, we're going to see guys just get more creative and do all these wicked things on the ice.
Yeah, it almost feels like Matthews is going to be the old guy when all this happens.
Yeah.
He's going to be the guy who did it once. Like he pulled off a Michigan, or they're going to show when he tried it and then passed it to Nylander, and they're going to be interviewing him. He's going to be so bald. All the way bald.
He's starting already.
And he's going to be, man, kids these days, I tell you, they're special. and he's going to be doing it while looking out at the lawn in his white New Balance shoes and, just sipping a coffee going, with his old man Justin Bieber shirt. That's going to be what old people wear. Like it's I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
I can't wait till Bieber's playing on like classic rock, and that's our radio.
This is still Andy Frost. Baby, baby, baby.
Mitch Marner is going to be an OG too, because he's like one of the pioneers just with his speed, and like when he does, like he did a move on, I think it was Saturday, where he like hot kick the puck with his skate. Yeah, he passed it. Do you remember that move? Like that sort of stuff's just going to be regular, and Mitch Marner's going to be an OG of it.
Time makes people forget. Like I'm going to call out Dmitry Filipovich right now.
Oh,
Dimfip, because he tweeted a video compilation of Jason Spezza, like back when he was with the Sens. He's like, man, Jason Spezza is one of the most underrated mixtapes of all time. And I'm like, Jason Spezza? He was a second overall pick, a monster for the better part of a decade before he was just kind of a very good NHL player. Right. Underrated.
Yeah, don't talk to me about underrated for second overall picks.
People just forget. Yeah. They just forget because he was drafted like 20 years ago. People just forget. Oh, it's Daniel Chara, man. People don't understand what a beast is. What?
Yeah, time does do wonders to people.
Yeah, it's very weird. Man, like, I can't wait for the first time. Like, this sort of happened with my dad where I would, because he's a big music guy, every now and then I'd be like, do you know a band called, and he would just be like, oh, yes, I do. And he would open me up to that entire world. There's going to be some 12-year-old, man, I found these highlights. So that you ever heard of Pavel Datsyuk?
Right.
Because he's been out of the league for how many years? Mm-hmm. It's going to be very interesting.
Or like with your music analogy, some kid who's 8 is going to be like, whoa, did you hear about the Backstreet Boys? And you're like, they sold 1.2 million copies in a week. Like, we've heard of them,
Oh.
But to them, it's new,
I don't believe that because I found one of them for $60 on Cameo.
I can go pay Nick Carter to make me a video.
Like a worldwide superstar. Hey, man, this is Nick Carter. Just want to wish your grandma a happy 75th birthday. And then he sings happy birthday.
Yeah. At one point, he was Jesus, Like, he was huge.
Lance Bass went to space, didn't he? Or like he trained to go to space?
He did.
I know that's NSYNC. Relax. By the way, you are all seeing the value of Adam Wilde.
Oh, yeah.
Right now. The kids' table episodes are always different.
The Selly of the week goes to Tim
Stützle.
Thank you. Tony also out with a stomach bug.
Oh, is
not
he?
Make it to this episode. Yeah. Tony is out. He got a tiger thing. I don't know what it is, but it's out.
The tiger flu. The other Tony
Joe Exotic gave it to him.
Oh, also out of the lineup with being a pain in the ass.
All right. Second favorite segment. Who wore the crown? So today, this segment is brought to you by Barb's Beer Cozy. If you want to drink an ice-cold beer while also keeping your hand warm, why not?
Why not?
Why not grab yourself one of Barb's Beer Cozies? This season, they're introducing beer cozies for dogs. Get it today at barbsbeercozy.org.
Are you making this up?
That's our sponsor of this episode.
Barb's Beer Cozy.
Grab one today at barbsbeercozy.org.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Steve, I'm gonna go first.
You're gonna go first
for Who Wore the Crown today.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna bat lead off. So it's Friday. The world sucks, like in general. But the Leafs are on, so we're kind of back to normal. It's 9:59 into the game. Zach Hyman bats a puck out of the air into the net. It's a goal on the ice. Ref goes to review, points at a goal. Like that's the peak of the Leafs weekend right there. Because we're coming off a good game on Wednesday, and we go into Saturday, go into Friday. First goal of the game, we get it for Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman's goal, it came off of a rebound of a John Tavares shot.
Oh my God!
John Tavares' shot came off the puck of a pass from William Nylander.
Oh my God!
I just have to.
My God!
I have to give William Nylander the crown this week for spurring the highlight of the Leafs weekend. Because after that pass to John Tavares, that was the goal by Zach Hyman. The rest of the weekend was downhill. Let's be honest. They lose that game. Then the controversy Saturday. Then Sunday's just a mess on the Twitterverses. And then we're here on Monday. So for the peak of the Toronto Maple Leafs weekend, now we're here on Monday. We got to go all the way back to Friday at 9:59 in that game. I got to give my crown to William Nylander for getting us that peak of Leafs fandom. Steve, who wears your crown this weekend?
I should give the crown to you because you have this unbelievable ability, Jesse. Every now and then, I would say you are comparable to the feeling of maybe this is the episode the Coyote actually catches the Roadrunner. Maybe this is the episode, and you actually had me going, Zach Hyman. Okay, I wonder where he's going with this. I actually didn't realize you were going with Nylander. Okay, I'm going to give a guy his due, who is often criticized in this market, and it's getting a little silly. Friday, his criticism was warranted, and he had a bounce-back game Saturday. To me, that could apply to two guys in particular. TJ Brodie was terrible on Friday. Very, very, very good on Saturday. But I'm going to give it to Mitch Marner. A huge bounce back from Friday, 24 and a half minutes, 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, a -1, 0 hits, 0 blocks, 0 steals, nothing, 24 and a half minutes, nothing. And then he is in on each of the Leafs goals, 2 drop pass assists, 2 drop pass primary assists, 1 to Joe, 1 to Austin, and of course, a goal of his own. So Mitch Marner needing to come up with a big game on Saturday, and he did. So I'm going to give him the crown.
And that is Who Wore the Crown, brought to you by Barb's Beer Cozy. If you want to drink an ice-cold beer while also keeping your hands warm, why not?
Why not?
Grab yourself one of Barb's Beer Cozies. All right, so we're going to work our way backwards. We're going to start on Friday. Leafs lose to the Sens. Now, 4 is the magic number of this game. So it's 4 straight goals by Tkachuk, Watson, Tierney, and Stepan. Middle of the second to the beginning of the third. Steve?
Jesse?
What's your analysis from that game?
So the Leafs have this bad tendency to just be awful for little stretches of a game, right? They'll have a relatively good game for 55 minutes, and they'll have an awful 5 minutes, and that'll ruin the whole game. I don't know if that was the case here. They were good in the first, were terrible in the second, giving up all those goals, and then they only had 4 shots in the third. So it was funny.
How many shots?
4.
Magic number of this game.
Magic number. And Sheldon Keefe calls out the offense. After giving up 5 goals, he calls out the offense. I'm like, what is he, nuts? And then I look at that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. in those 4 straight goals, particularly the 3 that came in 5 minutes at the end of the second. Yes, the defense was terrible. Brody had a giveaway. The Riley-Brody pairing was a mess. Do you not need a save? Do you not need a save once on any of them? On one. Give me a save on one. One. Yes, the Leafs defense is porous. The goalie is the last line of defense, though. Every time the goalie touches the puck, it's a breakdown of some sort. Uh-huh. You need one. And they didn't get it. And it wouldn't have mattered if he did get it, though, because they only had 4 shots in the third period. Friday was a brutal game.
And coming off of that game, we were all texting, and you were pretty down on the team in terms of their effort and not so much their play, I guess, is just kind of because we all know the skill is there. Like if the Leafs are peaking, they should be amongst the top 5 teams in the league.
Or at least the top 4 in Canada, for God's sake.
Right, at least the top 4 in this division. And they don't seem to ever be at their best. And you were pretty down on the team, and that obviously turns around with some time and some breathing, deep breathing. But
I meant what I said.
Yeah, so coming
I remember
off of
exactly
Friday,
what I told you.
Do you want to expand on that? And if you're still that down on the team, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I do. So I told Jesse, I don't like these guys. And Jesse goes, you'll go right back to liking them when they win tomorrow. And what was funny about this stupid team that we cheer for is we knew they were going to win the next night because they friggin' should. They shouldn't have lost the first one. Every game they lose to the Sens this year is going to make me mad. More mad than losing to any other team. But when you talk about the one team they should beat, it's these guys, for God's sake. Anyway, so I said, I don't like these guys. And you said, you'll like them again when they win the next day. And I said, no, I'll like that they won. I feel like there's a little something going on with my fandom right now. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how many other Leaf fans feel the same. Where I like the Leafs, but not necessarily these guys. These guys piss me off. These guys drive me nuts. And the whole night Saturday, like when the final horn went and they're all dapping up Jack Campbell, I was just sort of like, yeah, because you should. Like, yeah, you won because of course you won. You should. Like I'm at a bad place sometimes now, I think, where when they win, it's what I expect. Mm-hmm. And when they lose, it's because you can lose. You're allowed to lose. The Leafs are allowed to lose. That was terrible on Friday, right? So they got to put together some efforts. They got to put together some performances that make me like them. I'll always like the logo on the chest. I'm a Leafs fan. But these guys got to earn our respect back.
And
in some ways.
When you talk about these guys, I think of the big 6. I think of Tavares, Matthews, Riley, Marner, Nylander, Freddie.
Freddie's got to earn it back big time. Marner he's a guy I've defended. I think the fan base is too hard on him now. I was hard on him during the contract negotiations, but that's over a year ago now, guys. But he's making no off-game money. So, okay, you fought for the money. You got it. Now you're making no off-game money. You can't have an off game. Willie, unreal. I know you gave him the crown for Friday. He had an off game. Matthews was invisible on Friday. Riley, does he look slow?
Not necessarily. I think he's got to play different now that he's not with Barry,
Yeah.
Like I feel like the games for him has changed a little. Like he's not pinching as much. He plays a little more up the boards, but it's not the same, but I think it'll come back.
Yeah, if there's an adjustment period with him and Brody, I'm not shocked. But I think we agree that the issue with this team is just effort on a lot of nights. And I can't respect that. I can't respect that. There's a reason why heading into the season, I had like almost an affinity for the Sens and the season they're about to have, because I know Sens fans every single night are going to watch a team that tries. And they're going to watch a team that is going to have a lot of guys hurt and playing hurt because all they do is block shots because that's all they can do. But like, you have to respect a team like that. They're going to try. The more the Leafs play like that, the more this fan base will respect them. That's the type of team this fan base respects. And that's, I think, the kind of game that they played against Montreal. They were really sacrificing the body in the final few minutes and stuff like that. And Wayne Simmons, we were all losing our mind for him. There's a reason why that was talked about for 48 straight hours, his fight and no points. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure what this team needs to give in order for me to have. Should I be saying in order for me to have fun watching them again?
No, because I think you have fun watching them every time.
I have fun watching hockey. The passion has not died there, and I still love the Leafs. But there's something about this group where when they surrender a goal, I'm like, like I'm just so pissed at them every time they make a mistake. I don't know why.
I think there's something to the Leafs not having long stretches of winning. Because the last time I remember that happening was probably December 2019 after they fired Babcock. And they went on that little, it was like good 3 weeks where they just kept winning, and they had
they're like 12-4.
Exactly. Like one of those 12-4s, the 15-2, the 17-6 kind of runs from this team. They haven't had them in this era. And I think when you have those long stretches of winning and very little losing, the losing, people will give it to you. Like people are like, okay, but they're 12-5 in their last 17. They can lose that game. They're 18-2. You know, they can drop a couple. But the Leafs have never had these long stretches of winning. It's always been this wishy-washy kind of, okay, we're going to take 3 of 2. We're going to take we're going to go 4-5-1. And they need just to put it together for a couple weeks, like a 3-week stretch, for people to start being like, okay, we can accept losing from this franchise every now and again. I think we've seen that in this era.
That would definitely help, Jesse. But like, I'm still thinking about, like, I do know that they had a comeback win against Florida. That was a good one. But there was one where they blew, it was a 3 or 4-1 lead at home, I'm pretty sure, to Florida. And they were in a race with them last year. It was around a year ago this time. And I remember just that night just being like, I hate these guys. I really do. Because I don't know what it is. Like, it's, I almost feel like I'm having my time wasted. Because there are a lot of nights where I watch these guys, I go, they're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to do nothing. Again. I feel that less so this year. But there's something about this team. They need to put together a few performances. They could lose a game. I just want to see this team stick up for themselves and try. They could lose a game and beat the shit out of their opponent, and I might actually make me feel better. I realize there's an absence of logic to that.
Right. So
but there's also a reason I feel this way about this team.
All of that being said, Friday night we come out of that game, you're really down on this team.
I was very upset.
Saturday, we go into it. The Leafs outshoot the Sens 40-19.
Because they should.
Jack Campbell's in net. He gets the W. He looks great. Marner to Thornton. Thornton's the second oldest Leaf to ever score a goal for the team, I think is the record.
Something like that, yeah.
Jack Campbell on Stützle's goal is all cute. And that's kind of the narrative you come out of that. And then everybody's upset about Campbell and Anderson. And then going into Sunday, you sent an article by Rory Boylan, who penned this great thing for .ca about the questions after like the first weekend of hockey for each Canadian team. And he writes about how, okay, do we know that Anderson is going to finish the season as the starter?
Is Frederik Andersen not exactly how I described the Leafs just now? You don't know what you're going to get every night. You don't know.
Right.
You don't know.
So what are your thoughts on the whole Campbell Anderson? And now that we know Aaron Dell is a member of New Jersey Devils, that's also a wrinkle in the situation. What do you think of the Leafs goalie controversy?
It's just something to keep an eye on at this point. But like Freddie's going to play against the Jets tonight, regardless of how that game goes. It is the right decision. They have a 3-game homestand right now. It's Jets, Oilers, Oilers. You don't want yourself in a situation where you play Campbell against the Jets. Then let's say he gets lit up. And then you have back-to-back games against McDavid and Draisaitl. And you're now going to a starter you don't have confidence in and a backup you don't have confidence in. Let Freddie play the Jets, hopefully play a good game, win or lose. And then I think the Leafs play 5 games in 10 days or something like that. It's no back-to-backs, but no real rest either. And there's a bunch of travel in there. Why not have Jack play at least 2 of those? Like that I think is the perfect situation. Jack Campbell is here to be a dependable backup for Frederik Andersen. That's his job. Not a threat to his job. I think he's there to make Freddie a little less comfortable in that regard, but to me, there's no controversy. It's until it is very, very obvious Freddie is the starter and Jack is the backup. And I'm sorry, you can't tell me a game where Campbell had 19 shots on him. You can't tell me that's all I needed to see.
Right.
And it's nothing against him. Well, what about that save on Dodonov? It was a terrible shot. What about it? Plus, we've seen Freddie make that save 1,000 times because he's been forced to, because this team forces you to do that. So to me, Freddie is the starter.
So those are your words to a fan base that sees Freddie Andersen with a sub 900 career save percentage in first month of the season starts.
But I understand the fan base's feeling, because you're like, what is it about the first month of the season, whether it's in the fall or the winter, that makes you a sieve? Give me what I want in Batista's voice. That's not what I want. Like, we just want consistency. We know the Leafs can be great, and we know Freddie can be great. And it just feels like they are so rarely both great at the same time for 3 to 5 consecutive games. You know what I mean? It's so rare that win or lose, we just watch the Leafs for 2 straight weeks and we go, we got the same team every night.
Right.
We got the same Freddie every start. You don't know. And he's doing what he always does when he's off. There was the one goal where I think it was Riley Brody. They don't have the right coverage. He's like out of his crease. Get in there. He swims. He goes way too far out of position when he doesn't know what's going on. And it's like, you're just bigger Garrett Sparks. Like when you're that far out of the net. It's true.
Okay, so you're on both sides here. So we've got a whole.
That's why I'm losing my mind.
Right. So I think there's not a controversy yet. No. Seems to be the sentiment.
Yes,
but one could develop.
Oh yeah.
If it continues to trend this way.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Also out of the game on Saturday, Nick Robertson. Terrible news. Out for 4 weeks. Sheldon Keefe said at practice today. Very unfortunate. Your first NHL regular season game on, what was it, his second shift? Even
second or third. He was yeah.
And he was wheeling. He looked great, and then he's out for 4 weeks now. So
yeah, it's so unfortunate. And I brought this up 1,000 times, but he's been here since May. He's been in Canada since before Leo was born. Nick Robertson has been in Canada more consecutively than my son has been alive, trying to make this dream happen. And, he gets hurt right away. This wasn't a case of a teenager being in over his head. It was just a fluky, weird play. And by the way, the reason Leaf fans are so high on Robertson, he was drafted over a year ago now, in 2019. He's 4 months older than Tim Stützle. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's only 4 months older than Tim Stützle because he was one of the youngest players in the 2019 draft. Mm-hmm. And a very important note for anyone who's like a nerd I know if you're Steve Simmons, you maybe don't care about details. I guess we'll get into that later. But Earl Schwartz, you got to follow this guy on Twitter. Earl Schwartz 27, really good with like CBA stuff. So this is important to note with Nick Robertson. If Nick Robertson is on the Leafs roster for 27 games, injured or not, he accrues his first professional season of experience. A 4-week recovery, which is what he has, would be 16 games on the roster. And March 13th is the 27th game for him. If he reaches 27 games, he hits UFA, unrestricted free agency, in 2027 instead of 2028. So that's just something to look for, something the Leafs might try to manage at some point.
You know what? I am having trouble looking towards 2027 and the contract situations.
That's the first thing I thought when I read it. I'm like, okay, you should note that if you're with Leafs management, but also that's so...
The Leafs management in place now won't be here for that contract.
That's like two prime ministers from now. Like,
yeah,
I don't care. Like, yeah, but you should. I don't know. It's noteworthy.
Write it down on a notepad somewhere and lose it. Lose the notepad in like 6 months.
The reason it's relevant is if you see the Leafs do some finagling with Robertson later in the season, you'll know why.
Right.
Yeah.
So Leafs go tonight versus the Jets, as you mentioned. And Patrick Laine left practice this afternoon. He had left practice on Sunday, and then he left again today. And now the reports are that it's an upper body injury, and he's listed as day-to-day. That's from Paul Maurice. So we don't know what it is, but upper body, day-to-day, and not tonight.
Pretty surprising because he's having a really good start to the season. You wouldn't think he'd been playing through anything just looking at him, but I don't know. The Leafs, I mean, they got to win that game. That's a gift to, play the Jets without Patrick Laine, one of the most dynamic scorers in the league. And by the way, his first few games, the highlights from them, I think he had an OT winner. I'm just like, okay, I was right. Like whenever I take a hard line on things, I'm like, I don't know, this could bite me in the ass, but the Jets would be nuts to trade Patrick Laine. No, I'm 100% right. I'm absolutely right. They're not replacing him. They could get a good package for him, but they're not replacing him. There's maybe 5 players in the league who can do the things that he does with the puck. And I would assume based on his start to the season, they're not looking to trade him. And I don't know why anyone would want Pierre-Luc Dubois. I don't know if you're getting to him next based on what happened today.
I think we should do Pierre with Eric Engels, who's coming up on the show.
Interesting. Because now all of a sudden he's going to the Habs?
Because everybody's been talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois to the Habs. So when Eric Engels joins us, that's the first thing we'll hit. I think it'll be very interesting to hear his perspective on that.
Right. I didn't realize what time it was. Wow, we're going to have him on very soon.
We're very close. I think a quick thing we can hit before Engels joins us. Do you have any more thoughts on the Leafs? They have game tonight. I don't think most people will hear this. It'll come out while the game's on. So I don't think there's any point to predicting what's going to happen tonight. But do you have anything for the week before you go on Thursday?
Jason Spezza is a real one. That dude is a Leaf. That dude is a Leaf. He pulled a Rob Gronkowski and he said, I'll friggin' retire. If you claim me off waivers. I saw a few people go, well, shouldn't that be allowed? I'm like, it's just a trade request before you're on the team. Pretty much. Like, just don't claim me. He's being upfront and honest. You can't force him to play for you. And as for Aaron Dell, I think people made way too big of a deal because now Michael Hutchinson is the third goalie. Listen, if you want a good third goalie who is not going to be a waiver problem, draft them. That's the only way to do it. Everything else is crossing your fingers. The Leafs tried to have a really good third option, and the Carolina Hurricanes literally ruined the league by claiming Anton Forsberg a few days ago. Like, think of the complete game of friggin' musical chairs. It
was that and Corey Crawford's retirement.
And Corey Crawford's retirement screwed everything up.
Those two things screwed up the entire league in terms of the third goalie situation, and now it's all wonky.
And the Leafs held on to Dell to try to protect him, and Dubas probably went, well, the Devils claimed Eric Comrie to alleviate their goalie problem. So, we have to put him on waivers. So let's try now. And then the Devils got him anyway. So the Devils have now stolen 2 goalies off of waivers, and all the Leafs can hope for is a goalie makes it to them.
Right.
Really, because, and this is the other issue, is they're kind of middle of the pack in terms of waiver wire priority because it goes by where you were in the standings last year. So I saw some Oilers fans, because they're desperate for a goalie now.
Yeah, the rumor is they're looking to trade for one, which is crazy.
They're going to have to. But who's got all of these goalies now?
Right.
And the other issue is that, like, Dell would have been perfect for them because he's in Canada. But the issue is the Oilers have 2 guys on the way who can't play for them for like over a week. They have a guy coming over from Austria because they're so hard up. Friedman was speculating yesterday that the Oilers would try to claim Aaron Dell and then just leave him in Toronto because they play here on Wednesday. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen now. The border screws everything up, and the Hurricanes screwed everything up, and Corey Crawford leaving the Devils screwed everything up. I assume the Leafs are going to be able to pick someone up off waivers, but they're not going to be Aaron Dell quality.
Right.
And I'm struggling to see how this is Kyle Dubas's fault.
Are you ready to get into Pierre-Luc Dubois with Eric Engels?
So am.
All right, let's go.
Happy New Year's from our sponsor, Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and is here to help you have clean balls in the new year. Ring in the new year with the right tools for the job. Manscaped is here to give you a New Year's resolution that you'll actually want to keep. The Perfect Package 3.0 is the below-the-waist grooming package you need to start off strong this year. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SDP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. New year, new balls.
All right, we're joined here by Eric Engels of Sportsnet. Eric, how's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah.
We're in the fun zone. We're in the red zone here in Quebec, but we're also in the fun zone because hockey's happening.
It's very true.
Wow. Very good. We're in the fun zone now as well there, Eric. Ontario is in, there's new restrictions and none of us know what any of them mean. It's great. It's good stuff, but there's hockey on every couple of days.
They
so
all
it's
mean
good.
stay at home.
Yeah.
They all mean stay at home.
I really hope we're in the vaccine zone soon, to be honest with you. I've never been more excited to get a needle in my life.
All 3 of us are very not.
Oh yeah.
There's a website. There's a website that's a calculator. So you just plug in a bunch of information about yourself. 3 healthy men who are relatively young. Nope. Not us. Not soon. My wife's a teacher. She'll get it soon.
But relatively soon. I mean, look, we didn't think a vaccine would be developed possibly ever, let alone within a year. And it was 8 months before one was, and it's 95% effective. And even though it looks like it's slow going now, and it's very frustrating to see how slow going it is, the world is working on this. So hopefully it happens faster than any of us imagine, at least for the 3 of us. I don't know how other people feel about vaccines or whatever. I'm not going to get into that, but I know how I feel about it.
People come to us for the vaccine takes.
They definitely do. I think there will be here. This isn't a vaccine take. There will be a moment. There will be a moment in the not too distant future where we realize everything's going to be fine.
Yes.
Where it's gonna dawn on us. You were talking about the light at the end of the tunnel, Jesse. I have a feeling it's around the corner. We're going to figure out everything's fine.
You know what also might be around the corner? Pierre-Luc Dubois to Montreal.
You never know.
So Eric, we were just talking about before you came on, we were like, okay, we're going to pause on this conversation because we want to hear your thoughts on this. The rumor over the weekend is that Pierre-Luc Dubois should be the number 1 center in Montreal. Do you think that should happen? And do you think it will happen?
Well, first of all, that was an elite transition. Second of all, you say it's the rumor over the weekend. I'd say it's the rumor over the last month, to the point where I addressed it in a column on Friday or last Friday on Sportsnet. And it's always our it's always our end game to keep things to roughly 800 to 1,000 words. It was tough in that one because you really wanted to explain all the different things that go into that, not just from Montreal's end, but also from Columbus's. Start with Columbus. They have the player. He's under contract for 2 years at $5 million, which is a really good number. And regardless of the fact that he doesn't want to be there or that it's been reported he wants to be in Montreal, that's his place of preference. Jarmo Kekalainen is under absolutely no rush to get this done. He's likely to come out the loser in any deal he makes, where he's giving up a 22-year-old 6'3" centerman who has already proven something, but also still has a ceiling above him. And he just needs to lose as little as possible, or perhaps end up in one of those anomaly situations like Joe Sakic found himself with Matt Duchene, where everybody thought he'd lose that deal, and well, he ended up the big winner. So, Montreal's end of it is obvious. Over 3 decades, they've looked for this profile of centerman, and Marc Bergevin for 9 years has been talking about how they're never available, and now one is, and he speaks the language, and is a guy that's willing to come to Montreal, at least according to reports that are out there. But Marc Bergevin also, as I led my column, it's like when you're looking for a job and nothing's available and you can't find anything, and then finally you land a job and then 6 other opportunities flood into your inbox. It's one of those things. He's got Nick Suzuki and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He's in a great situation cap-wise with those 2 players on entry-level contracts. One in Kotkaniemi that could develop as he's a 20-year-old right now, but in 2 years from now, he could look like what Pierre-Luc Dubois looks like at 22. He's got Suzuki, who plays that two-way mold game. He's not as established as Dubois, but he looks to be headed in that direction that much quicker than anybody thought he'd get there. So those have to be the pieces that if you're Jarmo Kekalainen, you're not making a deal with Montreal unless one of those 2 guys is involved, because there's other teams out there that would want a player like Pierre-Luc Dubois, and they have things to offer.
So I love Pierre-Luc Dubois as a player too. And like I was saying during the Columbus series, I think it was even after game 1, I'm like, wow, this guy's a problem. And sure enough, the Leafs had a very difficult time handling him. But like you said, Kekalainen is under no stress, no pressure to trade this player, which is, I think it makes more sense when you put it that way, that the rumor was out there that they're asking for Nick Suzuki. Because to me, you have to be on some kind of extraordinarily powerful psychedelics to think the Montreal Canadiens are trading Nick Suzuki. They're not seriously entertaining offers on that kid, right?
No, of course not. It's not their angle. It's not what they're looking to do. And but the other side of it is, any discussion about Pierre-Luc Dubois has to start with the question and related to the Canadiens. Do the Canadiens feel they have a better chance of winning now with Pierre-Luc Dubois at a $5 million cap hit this year and next year? And then you weigh how much better do they believe that chance is if they're really considering making this move, and how much better is it if it's Nick Suzuki and not Jesperi Kotkaniemi in the deal. And I think the net gain there is not high enough to take the risk of what we haven't discussed yet, which is the whole quarantine issue. If you make a trade, you're going to be missing a player that you're trading away for 14 days, as well as the guy that you're bringing in, right? So what if the reason you're bringing in Pierre-Luc Dubois and willing to trade Nick Suzuki, I'm not saying they're willing to do that, but what if the reason is that you believe it gives you a better chance to win now, and then you're putting your playoff hopes in jeopardy, and boy, you burned the one of the 2 years you get Dubois at $5 million, because after 2 years he becomes, if he continues on this path, an $8-9 million player. There's so much risk involved, and there's so much that needs to line up on both sides of this that I think we can all agree it's most likely something, if it does happen, happens in the offseason, and even then it's a tough call. For me, Nick Suzuki is probably a non-starter, because even if I think Pierre-Luc Dubois is more established and is a different profile player to begin with, but he's a better player, even if I believe that, I don't know that it's that much of a difference that gives you the opportunity to win. Whereas Jesperi Kotkaniemi, if I was Marc Bergevin, and I believe in Jesperi Kotkaniemi, I believe that in 2 years from now, he could very much be a player that is like Dubois, but it will take him that amount of time to get there. But if Jarmo Kekalainen called me tomorrow and said I would take a package that revolves around Kotkaniemi, I would consider taking that risk to have Suzuki and Dubois. And if for whatever reason that risk gets in the way of what happens this year, I know that for next year and for 10 years to come, my top two centers are Suzuki and Dubois in a division that, if it's not all Canadians, still includes Austin Matthews and John Tavares on one side and, Patrice Bergeron on another. And this is what they're competing against here. So I believe you win up the middle, and I love Jesperi Kotkaniemi as a player, but I also think that if that deal was available to Marc Bergevin right now, it'd be hard for him to say no to it.
Because you look at the division right now, and it's stacked with number one centers. It's Austin Matthews, it's John Tavares, it's Pettersson, it's McDavid, it's Draisaitl. And Montreal, if they're going to compete, that might be the move where they think, hey, it's win now mode. Dubois is going to put us in the company with those teams.
Yeah, and that's the question about the Canadians this year, right? They don't have those guys. What they do have is a deeper roster than most of the other teams, right? You probably, I would trade, outside of Ottawa, the top two lines of almost every team in Canada to Montreal for their top two. I would, if I was Montreal, I'd rather have the Scheifeleys and Laines and Matthews and Marners of the world. But the Canadians and their whole group and their four lines, and even a fifth line that is better than some fourth lines in Canada, that's the question we need to have answered this year. Is their depth going to prevail over that star power? And in a normal regular season, it probably wouldn't. But in a regular season where the games are going to look more like playoff games as we move along, that tends to really help in the playoffs when you have that ability to roll things over and deal with the exhaustion element, because you can trust that any line that you put on the ice is going to do the job. So that's the most interesting dynamic of the Canadians versus their rivals this year. I look at it from the other end too. It's like, will the star-powered led teams beat up on the Canadians because they can't match up with those star elements? And like I wrote after the Canadians beat the Oilers, the one equalizer here is Carey Price, because he's the superstar.
All right. So I'm looking at. So there was Vegas with the Thomas Tatar trade a couple of years ago, where they gave up far too much for him, and then didn't play him for some reason. But that was a completely separate issue. They just had so many assets that at the time it almost didn't matter. So no one would refer to the Habs' current roster as old. There are parts of it that are old, but it's a young team. Since 2017, they've drafted in the first two rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times. Do you think Marc Bergevin could potentially be tempted to trade any of those guys outside of Suzuki and Kotkaniemi, just because there's no possible way all 12 of those guys make the team?
Yeah, it's a great point, because only Detroit has made more draft picks in the last 3 years than the Canadians have had, not just out in the first 3 rounds or whatever. And yeah, they've built up by consensus. If you read the draft analysts and all the people that know much more about that than even I can pretend to, they consider Montreal to have a top 5 kind of prospect pool here. And if not for the elite level prospects that are in the system, guys like Cole Caulfield and Matthias Norlinder and Caden Goalie, for the actual depth of that system. So, and the Canadians have entered, at least in my mind, but I think you guys would probably agree, watching what they have and what they're building here, that they've entered a kind of window where it can be digestible for them to potentially move some of these future players to get something that helps them now. We're running up I sat down with Marc Bergevin last week and we talked about trade, and he believes, just like he echoed Jim Rutherford's thoughts in Pittsburgh, that it's nearly impossible this year. It's really, that was what made it so important for Bergevin to make so many moves prior to the season, to bring in so many players to the point where he even had to risk losing some good ones on waivers. And the Leafs did similar things, and they also ran up against those risks. And just like Montreal, they've lost Aaron Dell, and Montreal lost Noah Juulsen. Neither team wants to lose those players. You bring in the depth for that specific reason, that the trades are going to be that much harder to come by this season. So it depends on who the player is that they're after, if they're going to consider moving some of those prospects. But I think there's a willingness on Bergevin's end to do that much more than there has been over the last 3 years.
So when you go to the States, let's say you're traded there. Do they have the same quarantine as Canada? No.
Well, and also this is what's so complicated about it, is that the rules are different from state to state. It's not just a blanket across the states. And same here, even though we have an applicable rule in Canada regarding people coming in from the States to here, from even Canadian teams to Canadian teams, the local governments have different rules. BC seems to be a bit more stringent than somewhere else. Manitoba is a bit more strict than other places, to the point where they're telling visiting media coming into Manitoba to quarantine for 14 days beforehand. So wow. I don't know if I'll be going to a Winnipeg Jets game this year. So it's just, these are the circumstances we're dealing with. And for as much as you want to stay on top of it as a reporter in terms of what all the semantics are, it's very complicated and requires almost a day-to-day, let me reach out to this person just to make sure I understand this properly. So before I sat down and wrote 1,100 words on Pierre-Luc Dubois on Friday, I wanted to make sure I was right about saying that if he's coming in from Columbus, you got to wait 14 days before he gets integrated into a practice. Because you go back to training camp, guys who were coming in from the States or Europe had to quarantine for 7 days. And then for the next 7, they had to have 4 negative tests in those 7 days. And for the next 7 days, they were allowed to go to the practice rink and home. The reason why it's not the same rule now is because the Canadians are no longer in their own bubble. They're sharing a bubble with the other teams in Canada. Not, an imaginary bubble, but there's other considerations. You can't bring in a player from the States and have him around your group after 7 days and 4 negative tests and play against opposing players if they're exposed to those players. Like it's annoying. It's boring. I don't even keep talking about it, but it's one of those things that I'm trying to give you some insight on how much we have to think about that stuff before we write something or say it on the air and get it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Like a situation where the Winnipeg Jets have 6 games in 9 nights coming up. And if you just traded for a player, he has to quarantine for 14 days, he's going to miss maybe 10 games. And then after that, he's got to get into the lineup and used to all of his new teammates. It just makes
assuming he can jump right in without a practice. And to add to what you just said, if you're trading a player off your roster to get that player, you're missing that player and the one you traded for. So It's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah, and you got a guy off your taxi squad in your regular lineup for a quarter of the season, because that's how long 10 games is.
And speaking of taxi squad, I'm having a hard enough time understanding what the Leafs are doing. Can you explain the Alexander Romanov situation to me like I'm 5?
Yeah, just really simply, people see the salary cap. They see $81.5 million for the season. And what they need to realize is that number to get to 81.5 is calculated daily. It's a daily calculation. The minute the season starts, every single day, you're leading up to filling up that $81.5 million. So if you take a player who's not eligible to be put on waivers when you're in a day that you're not playing and you put him on the taxi squad, you're not exposing him to waivers, number one. And number two, you're saving $6,000 on the salary cap. And that's important because that every day that you do that, you end up in a situation where you've banked a certain amount of money that would normally be counting against your cap if you just left him on your roster. And that's important for a team like Montreal, and it's important for a team like Toronto because they're right up against the cap and they're carrying less players than 23 that are allowed to be on their active roster. So right now, Corey Perry is on the taxi squad for Montreal. He's cleared waivers, something that I didn't think would happen, but it did. So he cleared waivers. He's on their taxi squad. If they want to insert him into a game right now, they would probably have to take a player like Jake Evans, who's their fourth line center, a player that they want in the lineup, and they'd put him on the taxi squad for a game, knowing that he doesn't have to clear waivers. He's on his entry-level deal. And they would put Paul Byron at center, move him from the wing. He's not a centerman, but he can play center, and put Corey Perry in the lineup. Whereas if they've made those moves like they did with Romanov and Evans already on off days and then reactivated them, and they've banked enough space, they can go from carrying 30 days from now, from right now they have a 21-man roster, they could have a 22-man roster once they've banked enough space to have him. So I don't know if that works for the 5-year-olds that are listening to the podcast right now, but it's about as simply as I could express it without writing you a book.
No, I think you did a great job.
You did.
In simple terms.
You get to bank enough cap space to acquire your own players.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, or at least be able to use them without getting into that situation where you have to waive Corey Perry again and hope that he sneaks through waivers. Mm-hmm. Well, the waivers, that's another thing, because it's 30 days on. Once you've cleared waivers, it's 30 days or 10 games played until you're once again eligible again to clear waivers. Anyways, we should just screw this whole topic.
That's also fascinating, because once you go through, you can go through again for 30 days or 10 games.
Yeah, so Corey Perry right now for 30 days can float just up and down to the Montreal roster without having to go to waivers unless he plays 10 games, which is really interesting to me because that's the rule in a normal year. And this year's a 56-game schedule, and I feel like the numbers probably should have been prorated.
Right.
But and maybe they have, and I'm just totally unaware. And we'll find out later, and I'll kick myself for it. But so long as they haven't, and that's still the rule, it's interesting to me that in a 56-game season, that waiver rule is still the same.
Yeah. So Spezza would be in the same position then. He can go up and down. They have the flexibility with him.
He's cleared for 30 days or 10 games.
Oh. You brought up Romanov there. If over the 2 games that the Canadiens have played so far, is it Romanov and Price who are the 2-game MVPs? And with those guys playing as they have been, unbelievably, I think, has your projections for the Canadiens changed after those 2 games?
No, like my projection was that the Canadiens would finish second in the division behind Toronto, and I still believe that probably will be the case. But again, these projections and predictions, like as we know, all the COVID complications, not just if you have it or you've tested for it, whatever it is. Like I was saying over the weekend, like look at the Winnipeg Jets. They canceled a practice the day after they had a day off, and they're about to start, as of today, 5 games in 7 nights. It's going to affect how you play if you have to cancel 15 practices in a season. That will have as much of an influence on the standings as whatever you believe about these teams on paper. But if, assuming nothing wrong happens, I had Montreal finishing second in the division. I think they would have a very good season based on the depth and the balance of their roster, and also based on the fact that Carey Price is going to get some rest, and that, you know, Jake Allen is going to step in, and he's a capable guy, and that Carey Price would look like he did in the bubble, which so far so good. Even if he allowed 5 goals against Toronto, he wasn't the reason they lost that game, and he was amazing against Edmonton. And Romanov, I knew this guy was a player. You know, I've followed his story quite closely as you can, with him being in Russia for 2 years. I've spoken to people in Russia about him. I've spoken to people here about him. I know how the Canadians feel about him. I know how they felt about him before he showed up for training camp. They had very high expectations, which is really unheard of when you're integrating a 21-year-old or just turned 21-year-old defenseman into your NHL roster and like guaranteeing him a spot right off the hop. Like that doesn't happen in most cities, and it definitely doesn't happen in Montreal. And I think they're probably thrilled that like everybody is watching and seeing exactly what they already knew about Alex Romanov. And there's going to be growing pains. Like he's a 21-year-old defenseman. He's going to get burned, especially in this division with some of the guys we named that he's playing against on a nightly basis. But he's a fearless, energetic, smart, physical, great puck mover. I don't know if there's elite offense in him. There is no evidence to suggest there is so far, but I think there's more than what the KHL suggested, because his ice time was cut down dramatically, A, because they don't trust defensemen there, young ones, and B, because they knew he was leaving for Montreal and had no investment in his future.
Right. So you really do gotta, we sort of ran into this with Rodion Amirov when the Leafs drafted him 15th just a few months ago. You got to throw KHL stats in the garbage, because we had a conversation about Romanov a few months ago and all the hype. And then I saw him like, wait, he had 7 assists this past year and no goals. What is everyone talking about? And then he hits NHL ice, and apparently scouts are pretty good at what they do. There's
this great conflict with Romanov in one sense, is that the Canadians have based so much of their opinion on what they saw in 2 World Juniors, whereas under normal circumstances, everybody else around will react to what they see in the World Juniors, whereas they'll say this is a snapshot of a much larger picture, and they don't overreact to a 2-week tournament. Even if it's best on best competition, they do draw certain conclusions from that. But in Romanov's case, it's like this is the main picture for them because he was actually used the way he was supposed to be used, and he dominated. So that, I think, informed a lot of why the Canadians were like, this kid's not coming here to earn a spot. He's already got one. Let's see how far he takes it. And in game one, he's up against Matthews and Tavares for more than half his ice time. And I could say it, but I think you guys saw what I saw. He didn't look like a kid who was playing his first game. Right. He looked like a veteran. And one guy a year ago compared this kid to Drew Doughty, and he wasn't making the comparison in terms of what the offensive style or even a style of play. The comparison was Romanov's energy level and his wantingness to be involved in every aspect of the game and just how much he wants to impact it and how involved he is. That's where the comparison was to Drew Doughty. And when you watch Drew Doughty play and you watch him go to the penalty box and he's screaming and cursing at the top of his lungs and he's going insane and he's yelling at the refs and he cares so much and he's so involved, and he wants to make the difference. He wants to make the difference every time he gets on the ice. And there's very clear signs and evidence for me, like right off the hop, that's exactly who Alex Romanov is. He wants to make the difference. He wants to make an impact, and he's not shy or afraid to do it, even as a rookie.
Eric, we have to let you go to bring on Digit Murphy of the Toronto Six, but thank you for joining us. I encourage everybody to go to sportsnet.ca and read your article on Pierre-Luc Dubois. It's a lot of words, but they're well worth it. Thanks,
Eric. Guys. It's always fun being with you.
This episode is brought to you by 1010. Now, you may have read about this in the New York Times, InStyle Magazine, or Forbes, and we're excited to tell you about it. 1010 is an exclusive collection of 10 one-of-a-kind engagement rings designed by 10 of the most distinct designers working today. Using only diamonds responsibly sourced from Botswana, 10 design masters have each produced a uniquely beautiful commitment ring. They're available now exclusively at BlueNile.com, and when they're gone, they're gone. We all know that the diamond engagement ring is iconic. It's a timeless expression of the deepest commitment between two people. And with 1010, it's been beautifully re-envisioned in the hands of 10 modern designers, working exclusively with sustainably sourced diamonds. If you're ready to mark a special commitment or looking for a unique and meaningful way to celebrate Valentine's Day, you're definitely going to want to check this out. Again, this exciting limited edition collection of diamond engagement rings is now available exclusively at BlueNile.com.
All right, so we're now joined by two-time Clarkson Cup champion, head coach and president of the Toronto Six, Digit Murphy, everybody. Thank you for coming on.
Woo-woo! Pumped to be here, you guys.
You're the first professional head coach / president we've ever had on the show, so it's a big deal for us.
Come on.
It is.
You guys are a big deal. I'm hearing you guys are such a big deal here. I got introduced to you guys from Nick Patinia, who was one of our interns / brother of one of the kids on the Boston Pride. And he's like, Stevie Dangles, you got to get on that podcast. It's the best one. I'm like, all right, let's talk. So, Steve and I chatted, and here we are.
And here we are. Absolutely. So you got a busy few days coming up. So we really appreciate you coming on. Speaking of those busy few days, what are you doing? Because you're heading somewhere.
So we are heading to Lake Placid for the first ever bubble for women's professional sports and hockey. I know that the WNBA had one, and the Women's Soccer League had one, and now we're going to have one. And we are going to be leaving on January 21st. We get into Lake Placid the night of the 21st. We practice on the 22nd, and we start our games the 23rd. And away we go in an action-packed, fun-filled, 12-day adventure in the Miracle Arena in Lake Placid, bucolic setting. We're just going to be pumped. And Toronto is represented.
That's right. So, yeah, the Toronto Six play their first games.
Their first ever games.
First ever games.
Yeah, this Saturday.
Not in Toronto. This can't be how you pictured it, eh?
It's epic. It's one of the craziest rides. And I went to China, right? This is one of the craziest rides I've been on. We start in April. It's kind of like COVID's just happening. You're like, okay, it's COVID. This will be fun. And then everything shuts down. As a president, I can't get up there. I have to do all my recruiting on Zoom. And, you know, I didn't get there until October. And then by that time, we hadn't named a head coach and we didn't know if we were playing games. So our owners are like, why don't you just coach? I'm like, all right, let's do it. So that's what I did. It was really cool, though.
One of the biggest challenges for you guys, I know from the league, was just getting everybody to agree on 2 weeks. Because most of the players, it's not their full-time job. So you got to find 2 weeks where everyone can be like, hey, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to go to this bubble at Lake Placid and just play hockey for 12 days.
Yeah, and don't forget. Yeah, and don't forget, we're in Orda. Like, it's not that we're just going to some random arena. It is New York State sanctioned arena during COVID. God bless Ty Taminia. And actually, through a relationship at Brown, believe it or not, Paul Wiley, who now works with the arena, that's how this all kind of transpired, just chatting about some things. And then next thing you know, the bubble starts happening. And once it became a reality, I think it was really tough to get the players, not tough to get them to say yes, because they always want to play hockey, right? They're so dialed in. They're so focused. But it was like, how do we fit it in? Because these guys, they've got full-time jobs. But I think, to be honest, like COVID was, it's a welcome kind of distraction, right? For the COVID thing was a welcome distraction for our players, and their employers were happy to give them some time off. So it's really been kind of a lesson in cooperation. So it's really cool.
You mentioned having to, that didn't even occur to me. You had to recruit an entire expansion team on Zoom, essentially. So how has that been for you as the president? What are some of the most ridiculous conversations you had? And how can you tell you want a hockey player just speaking to them through a computer?
I think the good news for me is that I knew most of the players. You know, I've been in the game. You guys have been in the game older. I'm older and been in the game for 45 years, older than you guys. Like, literally, I'm 59 years old. I'm old. Old as dirt. And all the players. I know all the players. I know who's available. And here's what I was on the phone this morning with Labrador in Newfoundland, because Amy Curlew plays for us. And she's such a breath of fresh air, Energizer bunny. I've seen her play at Cornell for years, and for the last 4 years, because I'm a Cornell alum. But when you think about talent, okay, and it's not hard to recruit in Toronto. Think about it. You have 40,000 women that play hockey, okay, just in Ontario. Okay, so you start from that point, you're going to get 20 players, right? And then you start from the standpoint of who's good and who's not. Who's like Olympic caliber player and who's not. So then it becomes really simple. You're good. And then the next thing is, do you have the right heart? Do you have the right heart and soul to play for our mission? And that's how I've always built culture. I did it at Brown. We did it in China. We did it for the Blades. It's about the people. And if you have the right people on your team, they'll go over the wall. They'll go over walls. They'll go to war for you. And then you have fun, because every kid believes in your mission. And I say kid, again, because I'm old. Every young woman, every lady believes in the mission.
How have you been building that culture of the team? Because, like, obviously, I assume they haven't had much time together. And, like, a big part of a hockey team is playing as a team together. Like, so how have you, over the last few days or in the coming days, are you going to build that team mentality for these girls?
Well, I think a lot of it comes from just them knowing each other. A big part of who I recruited as well were people's friends, right? With women, probably with men too, but with women, they love playing with their friends. So if you start from the base of, if you look at our captains, there are 3 captains that played at Quinnipiac. And Cassie Turner, who is the coach of Quinnipiac, played for me at Brown. So it's like this little family that we already have created. So it's not as difficult when you just kind of bring people into it. So, like we just have fun. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of the Twitter stuff that I do. Like,
oh yeah, Miracle on Ice.
Like you have to do stand up. Like I'm doing stand up comedy like every day, and I've got Lisa Haley from Ryerson, head coach. She's Ryerson. She's the head coach in the U Sport team. I've got Spiros Anastas, who's the Brampton Beast head coach. Like, this is the best staff I've ever had, right? So you utilize your staff and their strengths. You know, I'm the setup man. I'm the humor. I'm the relationship builder. I'm the person that puts the lines together. I understand the people. It's fun. We just have fun. I can't explain it. We just have fun. Everything's fun.
What does Digit Murphy's team play like? Even though you haven't seen them hit the ice yet.
Fun, fast, furious. We already know that. We say that all the time. We're fun, we're fast, we're furious. We go at you, we come hard. I don't care. Like, when I saw PK Subban play, I'm like, thank God. We have D joining the rush. We have shots on net. We have defenders in the freaking corners in the offensive zone. That's how my team plays. Go get the puck. Go do something with it. Get shots on net, score goals, and last but not least, eat pancakes. That's what I tell them. Score goals and eat pancakes. It's an old saying.
What?
And they just look at me.
Is it?
We're crazy.
Why pancakes?
You know, it's really funny. I'm so glad you asked me. I say it every day. And my players don't ask me why. They just go, she's crazy. So this was back in the 90s. Russell J. McCurdy was one of my mentors. And I went out on maternity leave in 1994. And he'd be like, Margaret, because my real name is Margaret. He'd be like, Margaret, if you eat a pancake, you score a goal. And I was like, really, Russell? He's like, yes, because their pregame meals back in the day were on Sunday mornings. And that's what he would tell his team in the 80s, right? He's totally old school. So now I just changed a little bit and I say, score a goal, eat a pancake, you know? And they're just like, yeah, score a goal, eat a pancake. Don't even know why they say it. It's just fun. This is the kind of stuff. You guys can come to my practice anytime, by the way.
Oh, we will be there once for a while.
Yeah, as soon as it's legal, you can absolutely
Anytime. Come skate with us. So you guys should get a team to play against the Six. We would have.
Well, you're asking us to get our butts handed to us.
Oh yeah, you would have fun.
Okay, we'll mix the teams up.
Okay.
This is the kind of thing we want to do. We want to become, the talk of Toronto. Like, we want people to understand who we are and what we bring to the table, which is women's leadership and empowerment and fun. And I think we have that opportunity to do that. I mean, just coming on the show is so fun with you guys. Like, let's have everyone have fun. And I don't want to just say one last thing. I don't want to belittle it because it's women's hockey, but I think all sports, we need to have more fun. Okay, it was invented to be, get in shape. Sports was invented to have some camaraderie, beat the crap out of each other on the field and go drink beer after. Like, that's why sports was created. And now it's become this big warrior industry and mentality, but let's have some fun. So
you're in it for the fun and the pancakes, basically.
Fun, pancakes, but also to win the cup. Like, that's the fun. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I think that part of the method to my madness is not distracting them, but keeping it loose, right? Players play, but what gets in the player's head can make them stop playing. And you want them to maximize every shift, every period, every game. And if you can keep it fun and loose and not have them take themselves too seriously and forget about the mistakes, you're going to be a better team. Hockey's a game of mistakes, okay? Women and girls hate to make mistakes. They're perfectionists. I don't know if guys are. I guess they are. But I think they're more like, who cares? But women don't like to make mistakes.
For you as a builder, I was trying to figure out something you were saying earlier, and I think I get it now. For you as a builder, I feel like this bubble is you in your absolute element, and you love having a captive audience.
I honestly think that Ty, being the commissioner, was like foreshadowing that. She's like, you have to coach, because I didn't know it was going to be in the bubble. Like, they kept it a secret from me. So I think she knew that about me. You're absolutely right. We'll be doing Twitch. Like, they'll be having beauty cameras on the bench for Twitch. So what that means is, they call them beauty cameras. They're not beauty, but they'll be lined up on the bench and you can actually see the players live during the games, awesome. Which quite frankly, that's phenomenal. That's where the game has to go. It's got to be more interactive. People need to see what's going on in the locker room, on the benches. And I can't wait. I'm psyched.
For anybody who wants to watch the Cup over the next 12 days, or starting this Saturday and then 12 days, you can watch the whole thing on Twitch, and then the Final Four will be on NBC.
Yeah,
like that's a huge deal for the game.
Massive. And again, it's Ty. And I know that she was our chair, right? That was one of the reasons why I was excited to come to Toronto. Between her and JoJo, John, and Miles, JoJo and John Boynton, they own the team. Miles Arnone owns the team, and Ty was going to be the chair. But when Tyler moved over to the league, like, she's part of the power couple. Like, she's married to Ben Cherington. Like, she's a scout for Major League Baseball. She owns 6 minor league clubs in baseball. So she's got relationships that transcend hockey, So I think having her at the top of the food chain really helped us, and this is massive for us. I can't wait. Pumped.
How many of the games did you watch on Twitch before you joined the Six?
Not a lot, because to be honest, I was in China, and I had actually, I don't even know what the teams look like. I mean, besides for what I've seen on the scout tapes, right? And I say that because, not because I don't want to watch the people being scouted, but because the teams change so much every year, right? There's a lot of turnover. So one year they play one way, one year they play the other. But I watched, actually my son watches them more than I do on Twitch. And I was in China and not even part of women's hockey. They grabbed me out of some other world I was living in. And I was doing a startup basically for, some other things. But JoJo plucked me out of that and pulled me into hockey. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it.
So there's no one going into the tournament that really spooks you on the other side?
Oh, no, not at all.
No?
Not at all. I mean, Boston and Minnesota are going to be the teams to beat because, looking up and down the roster, the players they have, but anyone can beat anyone, especially us, because we've only practiced for 7 games. Like, we've only practiced together 7 times or 8. I don't even know. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not like anyone's got game tape on you guys.
Right.
Oh no. But they do have game tape on Digit Murphy's teams. They know we're coming at you hard. We're coming at you hard.
Yeah, you haven't exactly been shy about that. Doesn't sound like. Is there anything about you that's shy? I don't think so. I don't get that impression.
No, there isn't. But my mom would say that when I first started, out as a kid, I was very shy. So somehow I came out of my shell. But you guys, I'm so pumped to be on the show. Just coming to Toronto and hearing all that you guys do, you're awesome. Everyone's like, Steve Dangles, you going on that podcast? That's going to be fun.
Tell us about your show. Because you got one coming up from the bubble.
So yeah, we have the Six Fix podcast that we do, but we are going to do it from the bubble after every game. We're still trying to figure out how to plug it in and do it live, but we will have some kind of streaming mechanism that people can ask us questions, talk about magical plays that our team did, just being very open. So we've got as many people that want to hear about us and just talk, just rap Six. And then the Six Fix podcast is on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on Simplecast. I think there's all these I don't know, the podcast guys do that, you guys do that, and it's called Six Fix, and there's 8 episodes up right now if you want to binge. The next ones will be the ones at the bubble, and we're just going to keep rocking and rolling. I mean, you know how it is. It's pretty fun. It's pretty easy to do this stuff, just to chat with people, be exciting, have fun.
I think once this is all over, the pandemic and the Toronto Six have an actual home in the city and people start getting the merch and they see the games, I feel like there's going to be a real energy from the team that people are going to grasp onto and really get a hold of in the city. I feel like you guys can be a little hub in the city of fun hockey, fun women's hockey that people can come to watch and enjoy.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's all about just getting exposed and having exposure to the game, to the people. You can come down to our games. The players are accessible. You can sign autographs with them. I mean, anyone it's not like we're like this big secret, like, no, you can't talk to us. It's like, we're like, yeah, bring it. Let's talk to anyone. Anyone that wants to listen and hear our messaging about empowerment, education, and inclusion, and how you do that using sports as a platform. I mean, I think that's the way sports has to go in the future. We've seen it now without these huge like stadium kind of revenue models and streams. Like, people have to start thinking about different ways to expose sports to populations that they otherwise wouldn't expose them to.
So every so often I'll get a message from someone. Steve, I want a Leafs jersey, but I don't know who to get on the back. I'm getting a Toronto 6 jersey. Who should I look at getting on the back? Who are some names?
So we've got Cheyenne Darkangelo, who's played for us over in China. She's played for Team USA. We got Emma Woods, who's one of our assistant captains. She played for Quinnipiac. She played over in Sweden. Personally, Lindsay Eastwood will be a huge fan favorite. She's like 6'1". She went to Syracuse. She does a lot of shows on the radio. You can look her up. We have Brooke Boquist, who's on one of our top lines. She played at Providence. I mean, every single one of these kids just has so much jam. Oh, the other line that's really good is Michaela Grant-Mentis, Bucky. Okay, you watch her. She's going to score some goals. I'm not going to jinx her, but she is going to score some goals. She played at Merrimack. And then Frenchie, Sarah Ev, Coutu Gabou. I can't even say that. I just call her Frenchie. And Amy Curlew. That whole line, they can rock it. They are scoring so much. We call them the kid line. They're all out of college. Then you got Elaine Chuley in the net. You've got Sam Ridgewell. Kristen Barbara, like they're all like just really cool women. So I know there's a lot of names. You can always get Digit Murphy on the back, but I don't think that's a good player.
I was thinking about it. I just don't know what number I would use.
Well, I was always number 9, but you could put 6 on it because, we got your 6, baby. We got your 6. We got your stick, Stevie Dangles.
Why does everyone like calling me Stevie? I don't get that. Everyone like
it's a hockey nickname.
It goes. Yeah. Stevie Dangles.
I just gotta believe you. I just gotta trust you.
And I'll call you Steve if you want.
No, I like Stevie. I like it. It's stuck now.
So 6 Fix Podcasts. Make sure I'm gonna have you on. Both of you guys.
Sure.
The whole show. We'll wait for Adam to come back, and the whole show will come on.
Yeah. Adam was sick.
He's got an upset tummy.
Yeah.
I hope he feels better.
Yeah.
Us too. Well, we don't want to take up too much more of your time. We know you got a team to get back to. But thank you so much for joining us.
You guys are the best.
And this Saturday, the season kicks off. First ever game for the Toronto 6. We're super excited. Watch it all on Twitch.
Follow us. Twitter, Instagram, at the Toronto 6. Let's go Toronto 6. We're bringing home the cup, baby.
I love it. That would be absolutely perfect. Digit Murphy. The woman, the myth, the legend. Cannot wait to watch you guys in the bubble. That's going to be fantastic.
Digit Murphy, everybody.
I'll die mad that Adam wasn't part of that.
I know.
So I spoke to Digit. I spoke to her on the phone sometime in the summer. I think Leo had just been born. I was just sleep delirious, and I was up early one morning, and we spoke morning coffee in the backyard. And I was just like, I cannot wait to get this human being on the show. And we right before the deadline, before they were leaving for the bubble, I can't wait to have her on again. Digit Murphy's absolutely fantastic.
She reminds me of the most fun gym coach you ever had. She gives me that vibe.
She seemed like she'd be a great gym teacher to have for sure, or coach. Something about her reminds me of just a cartoon character. Like, she just reminds me, she's just really fun. And I think she'll absolutely be in her element with a plucky group in a bubble setting, which is not an ideal setting, but I think it'll optimize her skill set and make the Toronto 6 a really fun team to follow.
Right. You can tell how good she would be at leading a group of people. You put her in a situation where she's the head coach and she's going to excel. That's why I'm really hopeful for like the franchise and the team and the bubble. It's going to be a lot of fun.
There was a moment where I was on the phone with her where I was like I was behaving like I was applying for a job.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think she has that kind of that impact on people. Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. I'm jacked for the season now.
So one thing before we go, because we've done quite a bit of time here, but we need to touch on Voracek and the things that have happened to him over the last week or so with Philadelphia columnist Mike Sielski. So Mike Sielski, like I said, sports columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Friday night, the Flyers beat the Pens 5-2. During the post-game Zoom, Voracek and Travis Konechny are sitting at the podium, and Voracek is asked by Michael Sielski. It's a mundane question about how the season is different. Like, how is it different given these circumstances in this pandemic, in these unprecedented times? How is it different? And Voracek's response is, I'm just gonna read it verbatim here.
Do it.
Does it matter what I say, Mike? You're gonna write fucking shit every time, so it doesn't matter what you say. Yeah, it feels different. I mean, we got 4 points out of these 2 games. I wasn't even going to answer your question because you're such a weasel. It's not even funny. Next question. And boy, did Twitter have a good time with that quote.
A very, very good time. So funny. And the only person I saw who had any trouble with it was Sam Carchidi. Mr. I don't care what his political beliefs are, Sam Carchidi. I think he said, I don't even remember the context.
Who is Sam?
He's a Flyers writer, and I don't know. It seemed, I got the impression he leaned a certain way anyway, and I think most of Twitter did as well. And he said the old timey scribe thing that you always hear in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Voracek should have spoken to Mike in person if he had a problem. Why? Why should Voracek privately work out his problems with a writer who wrote about him publicly?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, the potential hypocrisy here. I criticize players all the time. And if one of them were to tweet me or whatever at me and be like, Steve, you're a fucking plug, shut your mouth. You're going to say you're a weasel and you're going to say fucking shit in your video anyway. I mean, I'd be sad about it, but I certainly wouldn't expect them to approach me privately.
You would get it. You'd be like, oh yeah, I get that. I probably deserve that.
If Cody Ceci one day signed up for Twitter just to tell me to fuck off, I'd be like, yeah, it's about time. Absolutely. You know what? I don't blame you. You played hundreds of games in the NHL, and here I am saying that you shouldn't be playing on a top pair. I get it. I would not be in the least bit surprised.
So that game happens Friday. Post game happens Friday. The quotes go around on Twitter all day, and then Saturday, Voracek actually tweets, and he responds to the columnists who said, "Hey, why don't you approach this guy in the locker room, do it in person?" And
I didn't even see this.
Oh, you didn't see this?
No,
no.
Oh, I love it. Hit me.
There's even more of the story after this. I'll keep going.
I love it. Okay.
Voracek tweets Saturday, what you think he was doing last year in the locker room? He didn't even look at me because he knew I was going to snap. Trust me, I'd love to his face. That was our first interaction since. So to everybody saying, hey, you should have done this to his face, he's like, I tried to. And this is the first time I got a chance to, and now I did. So
interesting.
Mike Sielski goes to a website called I have the name of the website, Crossing Broad. It's a Philadelphia sports website. He did an interview with a writer named Kevin Kincaid, and he explains that Voracek has a problem with a story he wrote back in 2019 around Halloween. So Mike says that he was at practice when Philly was practicing in New Jersey. They're at practice, and I go to write a column. I'm now quoting Mike. They had gotten off to a slow start that year, and Alain Vigneault is talking, and he says he needs more from his veteran group of players. Voracek and James Van Riemsdyk were laughing as he was talking. I go home and I'm hosting a party at our house. We've got 60 people coming over for trick-or-treating. I'm on deadline and trying to write this column about what happened at practice. Flyers PR got in touch because they thought I was writing that Voracek and Vams Riemsdyk were laughing at Alain Vigneault. So I apologized and said that I could understand why they saw it that way. I went online and we fixed the column at that point to clarify that I didn't know specifically what they were talking about. And I said I'd be willing to smooth things over with Jake, that I would speak to him at practice or over the phone. Again, we went in and fixed the column, and that was it. So that's why Mike Sealski thinks that Voracek has a problem with him.
So there was a thread, I can't find it, but it's everything Mike Sealski has written about Voracek. And there was one where he straight up just writes, Jake Voracek is the reason the Flyers are losing, or something along those lines.
And he's been on a Twitter tirade over the last little bit, responding to all these people who are calling him out for those columns and those tweets. And he's been like that one specifically. He was like, oh, that was just me being Twitter funny. I didn't actually think you should trade them. And he's provided a bunch of excuses. But I think most people have drawn the conclusions like, yeah, Voracek probably, if he had a problem with you, he could definitely call you out. And he was very in the right to.
Like, I don't understand why I don't understand the old school mentality of privacy or this should be behind closed doors. Like, you and I have a working relationship together. Like, there is a give and take, a professional, but like we're not coworkers. You know what I mean? I'm not coworkers with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So if they want to rip me, they can. This is an important story that I wanted to talk about, like, for this show. I mean, in real life, who actually cares? But for this show, it's something I wanted to talk about. And I messaged you this morning. I go, Jesse, I want to talk about the Voracek story. Mm-hmm. And after Digit left, I go, we have to talk about the Voracek story. And then you set up the Voracek story. And as you're setting it up, I realized I don't know the writer's name. And now I do.
Right.
Now I do. Like, you are in the business of selling your words. You're selling the things that you say. And for this to be anything but amazing for you, Mike Sealski, as I check the screen, for you to view it as anything but amazing for you, I don't understand. I don't understand. This is awesome for you, dude. This is awesome. The next article you wrote is probably the most clicked on article you've ever written. And
it should be about Voracek.
And it should be about, but you're going to write, I don't know, like a Shane Goss despair story or like, right. No, it should 100%. Like, Matt Cook had a fight with, I think it was Dean Brown in the Ottawa media. And his next article was Matt Cook had something to say about my junk. Do you remember this story?
No, I don't.
And I didn't know that writer, but I was like, click. Like, how do you not click on that?
Right.
How are you not now invested in this beef?
Yeah. No, I find your perspective on the story very interesting because I would have never looked at it from the side of, this might be great for Mike's career. I just looked at it. I was like, Voracek's probably right. And because Mike wrote this shitty column about him and had to go edit it. And now that Voracek's calling him out, he's everybody's kind of piling on him. But when hearing your perspective on it, it's like, hey, you should be thankful that he's calling you out. And now people are actually talking about you on podcasts and news.
As if you got to defend your friend or something like that. No, man, this is great for your buddy. This is great. This is especially in the digital world. And I don't want to sound like, I think there was a long time where older writers spoke down to digital writers, people like me. And now there's been too much of an overcorrection.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to speak down to Mike, but like for a lot of the old school newspaper guys, they aren't grasping that this sort of thing is actually extraordinarily good for you. You know who's grasped this? Steve Simmons.
Well,
people who do not like him and have never agreed with a word he's written. Click his shit.
Do they click it or do they get mad on Twitter about it?
Financially, it does not matter.
Fair.
People are tripping over themselves to go, can you believe this shit? And this shit is followed by a link that people click. I've never looked at a link and gone, I can't believe it.
The counter argument.
I go, I wonder what's in there, and I click it.
The counter argument. Reputations do matter. And if you're the guy who's shit posting about hockey, you don't want that to be your reputation.
Of course not. No, I'll agree with.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to get into the game and no one respects you because your takes are just trying to drum up controversy and aren't based in anything.
Yes, so there's a huge difference then between writing shit that is shit and just not true and having a beef with a player because you criticize. Like, stand behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Stand behind it. I think that's the way to go here. That's the way to go here. And I mean, it's not like you're never going to be able to. It's not like the Flyers are ever going to freeze you out. Like, when was the last time a writer was actually freezed out? Kyle Dubas was answering Steve Simmons' questions like a week or two ago. You know what I mean? And if he's not getting freezed out, I remember hearing a story with like Dave Feschuk, who Kessel called an idiot. And there was supposedly like an internal plot within the Leafs. We're not talking to this guy anymore. I hope I'm not getting the story wrong, but let's pretend it was Feschuk. We're not talking to this guy anymore. And it lasted 2 minutes before someone was speaking to him again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. I read the story a few years ago with the Oklahoma City Thunder back when they still had Westbrook and Durant at the same time. And there was a story about how the whole team just froze everyone out. That's an outlier, though. You know, it's just not going to happen. So for Mike Sealski, like, I don't know. I think it's been a good week. It's been a good week. I mean, if people are sending you heinous shit as a result, yeah, that's bad.
If you search any of his Twitter replies, it's literally Flyers fans calling him a weasel. So, because they're siding with the players and their favorite team. So
lean into it.
That might be tough for him for like a week, but if you lean into it, like you're saying, it'll be tons of Twitter reactions.
Change your picture to a weasel. Change your picture to a picture of Ron Weasley. Like, lean into it. Friggin', you know, like I think of like what rap used to be. And now we get like Tekashi 6ix9ine leaning into the fact that he's a friggin' snitch. And he's made it a thing.
Right.
And he's going, LOL, I did that. He made a whole music video about LOL, I did that. And he's fine. It has had zero negative impact on his career. Lean into it.
Tekashi's streams are in question. You know, like he's been accused of buying his streams. So I don't know if you
really
can say that. Yeah. Tekashi's a different. I didn't know that. A different animal because
I didn't know that.
The legitimacy of his career is in question. Like the actual amount of people who are listening to his music and his numbers on YouTube are in question. So that's a different thing. He's also when there are criminal cases against you and you're in court, and it's a different ball game than hockey replies.
Oh, I know. But I'm just not a very smart guy, and that's this first example I thought of.
I don't know. So I don't know if I'm with this comparison.
No, but like it was Taylor Swift for a while let the snake thing hurt her feelings. And then she figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, you don't have to be an asshole, but be the weasel.
Yeah. No, play your role. Like there's roles for villains and there's heroes. And if somebody's panning you as a villain, lean into it. Like, I don't hate that at all.
No, I call Nick Robertson a defenseman. So then I made a video with Nick Robertson about how he's a forward and
they
shirts.
Sold t-shirts. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, man, you're going to fuck up. And like, this isn't even a fuck up.
Right.
Like, lean into it. I don't know. Oh, I know why. I was like, wait, it feels like we're making too big a deal of this. The reason we're making a big deal of it is it was shocking to me and frankly pathetic that supposedly the NHL had to speak with Jake Voracek about this afterward, according to Sam Kirkidi. That's why I brought him up in the first place.
So yeah, I'll read that tweet because that was the last note I had on this. It's
like, are you serious?
This came out today. It says the league had a discussion with Jake Voracek for his explicit-filled tirade during a virtual news conference after Friday's game, per Bill Daly,
tirade
deputy commissioner. He wouldn't comment on whether a fine was assessed. So yeah, that wraps the story for now. But yeah, that's NHL. You need to calm down.
To even entertain the idea of a fine there is asinine. So then I just won't speak to you. Or I'll give you boring answers. Or, dude, this was on Hockey Night. And this wasn't the panel tut-tutting at it. Like, it wasn't the panel going, this is a terrible thing for the sport. And they were going, this is pretty great.
Yeah, Bieksa had like 3 minutes on it.
Bieksa had 3 minutes on it. Anthony Stewart spoke about it. Kelly Rudy was like, well, I used to be a jerk to reporters, and then I became one, and Dave Rittich got in my face one day because I said he should have had a save that he didn't. And it turned into this great discussion. Like, how often are the Philadelphia Flyers going to get brought up on Hockey Night in Canada this year? It's an all-Canadian division. I think it's great for the sport. It's great for the Flyers. It's great for Mike Skielski. And to even speak to Voracek about it is ridiculous.
All right.
Ridiculous. This is, oh my God. Does anyone in the NHL watch the NBA once ever? Ever? Once a month even? For God's sake, have a good time with what you do.
Right.
Oh, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Good for Voracek. And I'll say good for Mike if he leans into it. Make your profile picture a weasel. Do it.
Yeah. You can't ask for players to show more personality, and then when one guy is honest for like 30 seconds on a Zoom call, you have a talking to him. Like, you're just discouraging anybody from ever speaking up again. And this has been the most fun out of our NHL press conference in like years, and you get a talking to from Bill Daly. That's a shame. That's awesome. A mistake.
It's awesome that he did that. And it's not even anything against the guy. Like, I haven't watched Voracek closely enough to even know if I agree with him.
Right.
Like, it's just it's to put a cap on that is terrible. You can't do that. You can't sell a sport with hitting and fighting and then get mad at them when they swear. Like, like a swear like that. You know what I mean? He didn't say it, it wasn't a slur, it wasn't derogatory. He called him a weasel. I don't even know if you'd get sent to the office for doing that in grade 6, calling someone a weasel. They just tell you to shut up and go back to your desk. You're getting grown men in trouble for ridiculous. Yeah. Learn to have fun, for God's sake.
Yeah. And if you look at like controversies across sports that are going on like right now, like Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston, and he goes on, there was a report, and it's like, his the amount he wants out of Houston has gone from a 2 to a 10. And then Deshaun tweeted, he's like, it's been at a 10 for a while or something like that. And like, that's a dude calling out his own team. That's not the exact quote, but it was something along those lines. And then you had James Harden for the first month of the season publicly climbing his way out of Houston. And it's just like, okay, NHL, you're going to trail all these sports for a long time if you got calls from the deputy commissioner over swearing in a press conference. Come on.
Man, watch something on Netflix. Go walk your dog. Go do anything but make that phone call to Voracek. Like, it's such a waste of time. What are you doing? No, this and this is relevant. It's Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Are you joking? You know what? He was speaking like Flyers fans. Been there, guys. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it how anyone could interpret this as anything but great. For the sport, for the Flyers, for Mike, I almost called him Sam, for everything. And now I know his name.
Right.
Now I know his name. And next time I hear his name, I'm going to be like, that's the Voracek guy. Cool. Who's he pissed off this time? Or what has he got to say? Or, if he compliments Voracek, or, Voracek is having an MVP caliber season, I'll be like, well, that means something. You know what I mean? Just learn how to have fun in your thing that is literally professional fun, please.
Next episode, if we have room, because there's so much hockey stuff going on, like we can't get to extracurricular activities. But if we have some room, I'd like to just crap all over Novak Djokovic if we get a chance.
What a moron.
Oh, just the biggest boner in sports. Like, screw that guy.
And he should change his profile picture to a no.
Also, as casual MMA fans, maybe if Adam's still not around, we do. Is McGregor still a draw in 2021? Because he fights this Saturday. That might be fun.
I guess the answer is no, because I forgot.
There you go.
I don't know. I'm sick of his bro, you're a fighter. Go fight.
But that's what he's doing. So we'll talk if there's time on Thursday about that. But yeah, we got a couple Leafs game in between then. They go tonight. You're probably watching the game right now. It's probably over and you know what's happened. So please, in the future, tell us what happened, because we don't know. We're stuck here in the past. Steve, do you want to wrap the episode like how you wrap every YouTube video?
So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends to eat a pancake, score a goal, and don't be a weasel.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.